It's Friday, October 25th, 2013, and let's talk about what happened this week over at xdadevelopers.com. First up, a story that is halfway exciting to me as a new user of the HTC One. According to a story on the portal, which originated over on PocketNow and a bunch of other websites linking back to one guy on Twitter, some over-the-air updates have started rolling out to the International HTC One, updating it to Android 4.3 with Sense 5.5 on top of it. Now, like I said, rolling out to the international version, which means the US carriers not quite getting it yet, and of course the Verizon edition, I'll tell my grandkids to be on the lookout for it. As far as Sense 5.5 goes on top of it, of course you can expect to see some UI improvements, some tweaks to some of the applications in it, and of course one of the things that a lot of people are going to be excited about, the ability to disable blink feed. Up to this point, a lot of people have just worked around it by going to other launchers or things like that, because there's not really a way to set the default home screen to be something other than blink feed, at least from what I understand. Honestly, I've used blink feed quite a bit over the last couple of weeks having the device, and whenever I was testing it for Verizon as well, and I kind of like blink feed. It's nice to get sort of an at-a-glance, all of the news type stuff that I'd be looking at that's not necessarily targeted. It's Twitter and it's Facebook and it's tech news and sci-fi and everything. I'm not here to really go on and on about it, but it definitely has its upsides and it has its place. So if you want to dig your hands into the OTA update and get a look at it, see what makes it tick, maybe make it work on your device of choice, head on over to the forum thread for all the details. Now, speaking of device updates, we talked before about the Galaxy S4's 4.3 update. Well, apparently some people are having issues with that update, specifically having Bootloops after they've gotten it installed, and that is why XDA senior members Degraded Shadow put together a thread with 3 common possibilities for the scenario you might be in if you're having this kind of a boot loop, and what you can do to remedy the situation. Now keep in mind, if you do have this kind of problem, it's not going to be a quick and easy fix, but it is something that is fixable. Just follow the steps on the forum thread. And it is 3 very specific scenarios, ranging from not terribly complicated to fix to kind of involved to fix. Just read through it, make sure you understand what's going on, read the forum thread to make sure other people are not having issues with the method, and I wish you the best of luck. And interestingly enough, Samsung has gone ahead and posted the kernel source for this XXUEMJ5 update, specifically the source for the GTI 9500 and the GTI 9505. So while that's not the source for every single Galaxy S4's 4.3, it's at least a step in the right direction. Hopefully we will see the rest of them post before too much longer, and it should make for some excellent development material. People start building on top of it. So if you're interested in seeing the sources for this, go ahead and head on over to the forum thread. You can see it over on the Samsung Open Source Center as well. And actually sticking in that same Samsung vein, because there was a lot of stories related to Samsung devices, there was an interesting little tool featured on the portal this week that I thought was kind of interesting, thought I would mention. It involves a couple of batch scripts created by XDA senior member ASID, which are used in backing up the EFS partition on your Samsung Galaxy Note 3. Now, the EFS partition, if you're not familiar with it, like I kind of am not familiar with it, is used for keeping track of your radio functionality, network connectivity, things like that. So if something goes wrong with that partition, if it gets corrupted in some way, you're not going to be able to connect to much of anything, so it is very important that you make a backup of it if you're going to be doing any sort of work that might impact it or you might accidentally impact it. Now, the 2 batch scripts that he provided really are only geared toward the N900 and the N9005, so it's not for every single variant of the Galaxy Note 3, but it supposedly also works on the Chinese N9008 version and the T-Mobile N900T version. Of course, I looked quickly through the 2 batch scripts, and realistically the biggest difference between them is which block partition it's looking at. So if you know which one your EFS partition resides in, you could always just go into that and change it. The script itself contains things to backup, restore, work with Odin. Yeah, it's just a very easy to read script, so go ahead and take a look at it if you do want to back up your EFS partition on your Galaxy Note 3. And again, I'll say it, make sure to read that forum thread for all the details, just to make sure there's nothing that I've missed here. And the last thing to mention, 3 other videos were posted to XDA Developer TV this week. The first one was an Android app review done by TK talking about using Switcher to replace your Android app switcher. Then I made an event recap from the Big Android Barbecue, telling everything that happened from my point of view, showing some video and some photos and just sort of going into all the amazing fun that I had there. And then TK did another Android app review talking about floating texts and how you can have text messages floating on top of the screen. So for the links to any of those videos or any of the other stories that I talked about, make sure to check out the video description down below. You can also find the links to my YouTube channels at the bottom of that section. And remember, if you like this video, you can hit that like button down below the video. I'm not going to stop you. And you can subscribe to receive our content as soon as it becomes available if you want to be notified when we put out new content, because we do that an awful lot. As always though, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again on Monday.